Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in for today's webinar presentation. We'll be taking a look at the Getting Started guides that are available from our support website. An outline for our presentation today. We'll start with some introductions, as always. Then we'll dive right into an overview of what the Getting Started guides are, where they can be found, and how they can be used. Then we'll take a look at each of the guides. I'm going to start with the reservations and front desk operations. Those are the front of house getting started guides. I'll also include some end of day reporting that includes the night audit procedures and essential balancing. We'll also take a look at the rate management getting started guide that includes how to create and manage rates, as well as rates on ERES and GDS rates. And then we'll also take a look at the sales management getting started guides. We've got two of those that encompass corporates, OTAs, wholesalers, and group sales. We'll wrap up today's presentation with a summary and Q&A at the end. So getting started with our introductions for this Getting Started webinar. My name is Tasha LeClaire. I'm a trainer and implementation specialist with RoomKey. Joining me today, I do have our Director of Customer Experience, Mr. William Tam. Now, I'll be leading today's presentation and the demonstrations on screen, and William will oversee the chat and Q&A feature that is built into the Zoom webinar. So everyone is muted on today's presentation, but if you do have a question, go ahead and click the Q&A button on the Zoom meeting. You can ask a question, type it out, and William will be able to answer. If there's any questions that William is not able to answer throughout the presentation, we can also include those in the Q&A at the end of today's presentation. A couple more things about today's webinar. This webinar is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be made available on our support website. You will receive a notification once that recording is made available, usually within about 24 hours of our presentation today. Another thing to note for those of you that are joining our live presentation, we do have a webinar survey that will be issued at the end of our presentation. We appreciate any feedback that you're able to provide at the end. If you would like to suggest topics for new webinars or future webinar presentations, go ahead and type those into the webinar survey as well. We're always looking for new ideas and new ways to present our material from RoomKey. So taking a look at our first topic for today's presentation, a bit of an overview of the Getting Started guides, and most importantly, where can you find these guides? They're found on our support website. So if you go to support.roomkeypms.com, that will bring you to our support landing page here. And in the left-hand side, there is a button that says Getting Started. So if you go ahead and click on that button, that will open up the Getting Started guides for you. I'm just going to open up a browser right away and show you that feature. Of course, from our support website here, I can click on the Getting Started guides. And what you'll notice with the Getting Started guides here is that we've organized some chunks of information for you as if you are starting from scratch, getting to know RoomKeyPMS software. So we do have a reminder that you need to download the latest version of RoomKey. There's a link here where you can download RoomKey using your download password. And just a reminder that you will need to log in using your own clerk ID or login and password there. So if you don't know, if you have a clerk ID or if you don't know how to create one, we also have a link to a support article that will give you that information as well. Another important thing to note about RoomKey is that we do require internet connection in order to access RoomKey and to perform all of the different functions inside RoomKey. But if your internet goes down, we do still provide you with some emergency reporting, and those are the Smart File Backup reports. So if you needed to access those at any time, you can click Smart File Backup. Make sure you're familiar with how to access those when the internet goes down temporarily, so you can operate your hotel manually for a short amount of time until you're able to connect to the internet again. A couple more things about the Getting Started guides. If I scroll down here, you'll see that they're organized into groupings. A couple of pieces of information about each section. So the front of house operations, for example, uses the guest profiles, new res, and walk-in functions to manage bookings throughout the guest lifecycle. And that includes functions for the reservation agents and front desk agents. So we've got quite a bit of information there. We've kind of parsed it out into two separate roles, but oftentimes you may just have one front desk agent that does both reservations and front desk operations there. Now, what I would like to highlight with these guides is that you can use these as a support resource. Of course, it is available from our support website. So if you go ahead and click on one of these guides, it's actually going to open up in a separate tab on that browser window for you. We'll be looking at these in a little more detail, but I wanted to give a little bit of a tip here. Some of my properties that have recently onboarded with RoomKey, I like to recommend this for new people using RoomKey for the first time, is that you can actually bookmark these guides, and that makes it easy to reference them instead of having to go through the support website each and every time. When you have the guide open on your browser, if you go ahead and click the star symbol or favorite icon, depending on what type of browser you're using, it might be a little pin icon or a little bookmark icon, any way that you're able to kind of save this web page. Now, I am using Edge, so when I save this as part of my favorites, I'm actually able to give it a name and a folder. So what I've done here for my browser, let me just go ahead and show my browser on screen here, is that I actually have a folder called RoomKeyPMS. And in this folder, I've gone ahead and bookmarked not only the support website, but I've bookmarked each one of these Getting Started guides. That makes it really easy for any of the hotel staff, if they wanted to quickly reference this information or get a quick reference guide based upon their individual role at the property, they can go ahead and select that from one of those bookmarked Getting Started guides. So just a little tip there, using the bookmark tool or favorites tool, depending on what type of browser you're using there. So let me just jump back to our presentation. Now that we know where to find these guides and some of the tips and tricks for making it easy to navigate to the guide itself, I wanted to show some of that information there. The initial guide that we looked at, the one that is kind of like the master getting started guide there, it has those welcome message and the reminder about Smart Files backup. And then it is sectioned off into the different groupings that we have for our Getting Started guide so far. So we've grouped the roles at the hotel based off of front of house operations, end of day reporting, rate management, and sales management. Now we are looking at expanding some of these groupings, but they will all be contained on this first initial Getting Started guide. If you have been with RoomKey since the beginning of this year, 2024, you might be familiar with this Getting Started guide layout. But what I'm presenting today, these Getting Started guides were initially presented or launched at the beginning of 2024 in January. And we've actually evolved some of these guides since then. So I wanted to show you what is new with these brand new guides here. So, for example, I'll just use the Rate Wizard guide here, or the Rate Management guide. Two main features have been updated inside the guides themselves based off of feedback that we've received from clients. And the number one thing that was requested was embedded video clips. So each of the guides will now have video clips that are embedded into the guide itself. So you don't need to navigate to a separate web page or a separate article in order to view a short video clip about the topic or subject that is mentioned there. So in this example, if you see on screen, it says how to access the rate wizard. There is a video clip that is embedded directly into the rate management getting started guide. We have also enhanced some of the links that offer more step-by-step information. So depending on what the video is demonstrating on that video clip, I've also included more how-to or step-by-step information, links to more detailed support articles. So if you wanted to delve into more of the details about how to access and navigate within the rate wizard, we've got a collection of support articles available there as well. So the objective for each of these guides is to help train new staff. So if you have a new staff member that is starting using RoomKey at your property, they'll have a reference guide that they can easily navigate to online and view some of these clips about how to use RoomKey and how to interact in the database. Now, of course, each database is going to be unique, so these guides are as broad as possible with still being relevant. So let's take a look at some of the guides that have been put together in this Getting Started collection. Starting with the reservation and front desk operations, I wanted to group these together again, like I said, because oftentimes you have one front desk agent or one front office person who might be doing both reservations, creating and managing reservations, as well as checking in and checking out guests and posting to guest folios and things like that. So it is quite a lot of information. It does take up a bulk of the activity inside RoomKey. We have just parsed it out into two roles to make it a little more digestible for a new user or a new person joining your reservations and front desk team. So starting with the reservation side, we have an overview of reservations. We have a definition of what reservations are in RoomKey and some of the key features of a reservation in our software. Then we also dive into how to create a reservation, and we've got a variety of different reservations that you can create. And here is where I mentioned that we try to be as broad as possible. So all of these created reservations may not be applicable to your specific hotel. For example, we demonstrate how to place rooms on the wait list. If your property does not use a wait list procedure, you won't need to have that as part of your onboarding for your new reservation agent. Same with the wholesaler reservation. We have included that here just to give that information for the new reservation agent. But if your property does not work with any wholesaler or wholesaler blocks or allotments, then you can omit that from your own personalized onboarding for your staff. Another key thing that your reservation agents will be doing is some basic reservation functions. And then again, depending on how your hotel operates, you may also perform some of these advanced reservation functions. So some of the basic ones including how to search for a reservation, change a reservation, things like changing the arrival date or length of stay or the rate plan on a reservation. That's included in that video clip, as well as how to edit guest information, copy a reservation, and of course, cancel and reinstate a reservation. Some very basic operations there. But then, like I said, if you do have some more advanced functions within your property, things like maybe setting up charge routing or including the tasks in the message center, we do have those clips available to you, so you can also include that as part of your onboarding for your new reservation staff. Lastly, in the reservations collection, I do include some, or I like to highlight some reservation reports that are used often enough with the reservation agent role. Things like looking at an activity log or occupancy reports that will allow you to generate reports based on the number of reservations coming in, based upon different date ranges or different parameters. I've got a couple of videos there, but then I've also supplemented those videos with some additional reservation reports that may be useful for a reservation agent role. Things like looking at a property dashboard. We also have some override reasons. So if your property does allow your reservation staff to override a rate restriction or override a rate pricing, we've got those reports highlighted here so you can easily access that information and generate a report based upon those different functions inside RoomKey. I do like to include this little note here, of course, about the Smart Files backup. That's always helpful information for a reservation agent to know as well. In the event that the internet goes down, they can easily access some key emergency reports and still operate some of the manual functions on their own while they wait for the internet to come back. Diving into some more of the front desk operations, two main things that we're looking at with regards to front desk agent is being able to manage guest arrival and guest departure. So we've got those two key pieces of information listed here with some video clips that make it really easy to manage guest arrival. Things like how to check in a reservation or a walk-in reservation or print registration cards as part of that check-in process. We also take a look at managing guest departure. Of course, simple functions like simply checking out a guest, but depending on the type of billing that may be set up for your different types of guests at your property, you may have direct billing or the reservation charges may be transferred to the city ledger as part of that direct billing process. And we do also like to show how you can print and email a guest folio. If you have your email set up in the RoomKeyPMS database, that can be a helpful way to save paper or printing at the front desk. You can simply email it off to the guest as part of their checkout procedures there. In between guest arrival and guest departure, we do have some other management functions, things like the ability to post to guest folios or post to sundry sales. Sometimes this is a little bit overlooked. We do get this question in training. What do I do if I want to sell something to someone who is not checked in or not a registered guest? So that's why I do like to show the difference between posting to a guest folio for an in-house guest or charges that may be incurred by a guest who is registered at your hotel versus someone who might just be visiting or someone who might just be purchasing some sundry items from the front desk. We actually have a module called Sundry Sales that you can use instead of having to try and use a guest folio or house account. That sundry sales tool can be very helpful if you are selling items individually from the front desk there. So a couple of quick clips there that allow you to become more confident with posting charges, posting payments, viewing guest folios, as well as reversing or adjusting and refunding a posting. And then, of course, those functions available or highlighting those functions that are available in sundry sales as well. Now, we try to be as flexible as possible. There's lots of different operations that you can perform inside RoomKey. So I've also highlighted some additional guest management functions. We have a couple of clips for things, for common things like doing a room move or reinstating a checked out reservation. But then we also have some detailed step-by-step instruction for more detailed information, like how to check out a reservation with charge routing, how to adjust a guest folio after checkout. So some more detailed pieces of information, more advanced functions that you might perform as far as the front desk goes. And then, of course, I do like to highlight those front desk reports. Some of these are very similar to the reporting that is recommended alongside the reservations agent role. So there is some overlap as far as those recommended reports go, but that's always helpful to know what is being recommended to both of those roles, especially if both of those roles are being performed by one person or one role at your property there. Thanks. So in addition to front desk and reservation operations, we also have a role that is considered part of end of day reporting, and that is the night audit role. Now, RoomKey is designed in a way that we can support hotels that have a 24-hour front desk agent, meaning that they have an overnight shift or a night auditor that spans an overnight shift, usually starting around 11 p.m. and then finishing the next morning around 7 a.m. But RoomKey can also support hotels that close their front desk overnight. So because of that flexibility, I like to call this end of day reporting. There is some overlap with which role or which role at the property might be performing these functions. So it is helpful to have this information available to any front desk agents. The other thing that I'd like to note about the night audit or this end of day reporting role is if you do have a 24-hour front desk and you have that night audit position, that night auditor is usually operating with minimal resources. So they might only have one or two other people on site during their shift, and they may not be able to ask for help or have as many support resources available to them during their shift. So because of that, we do consider the night audit as an advanced front of house role that builds upon those skills of the front desk and reservation agents. So as part of the night audit getting started guide, I do like to just highlight or remind them that they should be taking a look at some of the reservation and front desk agent guides as well to kind of supplement some of the information that we go through here on the night audit getting started guide. So as I mentioned, the night auditor can take a look at some of the other guides if they would like to have more of an overview of what is the night audit and essential balancing processes in RoomKey, what is unique about RoomKey as far as the rollover time and how we are able to manage or support both 24-hour front desk as well as limited or front desk closures overnight. We can support both types of properties. This overview and the rollover period information gives that information in a video clip that's a little bit easier to digest. Of course, I do have some links to some more step-by-step information there as well. When it comes to the night auditor, they may not interact with guests as often, but the limited interaction that they do have, they should be confident with how to check in a guest or check in a walk-in between midnight and the rollover time and after the rollover time. So what that rollover time means for how they go about those procedures for checking in a late arrival or a late arrival after the rollover time. A bulk of the night audit task will be contained here within the required night audit task and the credit card reconciliation. So as far as the required night audit tasks, this is where we outline our balancing procedures, sometimes called balance checks or essential balancing. I've got these video clips that kind of parse out those key concepts and try to explain what is happening with the revenue and how it is accounted for in RoomKey, what happens as part of an end of day procedure, because RoomKey is a little bit unique. We don't have a physical end of day button or end of day sequence. So you are required to review your essential balancing on a daily basis. So this video clip here, how to do balance checks using the essential balancing report, will give you those tools to be able to balance your database each and every night. And then I also have a list of recommended end of day audit reports. These are common reports that accounting teams will often want to have printed for them or at least generated during the night audit shift. If your property closes overnight, we do recommend that you follow these required tasks in the following morning, so the AM opening shift when you reopen your front desk. Now, when it comes to credit card reconciliation, I have 3 little video clips that are listed down here. You are not required to do all 3. In fact, you would only perform 1 of 3 of these reconciliation steps, and it depends on what type of credit card processing method you are using. So if your property is not connected to a credit card processor, meaning you have a standalone credit card machine, you process credit cards on that machine, and then you record the payment in RoomKey as a manual function, you would use this first video clip that outlines how to reconcile with a manual credit card processor. If you are connected with a third-party credit card processor, something like Heartland or Shift4, you can follow the second video, which tells you how to reconcile with a third-party credit card processor. There are certain reports that you'll be able to resource in RoomKey, and then we also have a link to your processor portal where you'll need to log in using a separate login name and password in order to source that batch report or batch closure report from your third-party credit card processor. Now, for those of you that are using our integrated RoomKeyPMS payments powered by FullSteam, we do have an integrated reconciliation process that is available for you. And this last video will show you how to go through that process. You don't need to log into a separate portal or another platform. You can do all of your reconciliation directly in RoomKey using a single report, using that payment reconciliation report. So I always like to highlight that for the night audit process, because I know that credit card reconciliation is a major task at the end of the day. We do also like to highlight some other additional reporting tasks that you may follow during the night audit procedure. We have a couple of mandatory ones that we like to highlight because it can be, if these are not followed, things like, or they're allowed to occur, things like an unbalanced folio or a no-show reservation. These are mandatory tasks or procedures because if these are allowed to occur, they can affect the balancing that you performed previously. So any of these required night audit tasks, any of the balance checks, if you're finding that the system is out of balance or your accounts are out of balance, it can be due or it can be caused by unbalanced folios or unaddressed no-shows occurring in the system. So I do like to also highlight those as part of the additional reporting tasks recommended for the night audit procedure. Now, in some cases, these audits or these reports may not be applicable to your business. So for example, if you do not use call accounting software or do not use Movie or POS software, you will not need to follow any of these audits. Those are just available to you for those properties that do have those integrations available at their hotel. Now taking a look at some more advanced management functions inside the database rather than the day-to-day operations. These are focused more towards revenue and rate management roles at the property. Right off the bat, we do like to highlight the Rate Wizard. That is an integral tool for managing rates inside RoomKey. So we have an overview of the Rate Wizard tool, what it is, how rates are distributed using the Rate Wizard, what are client types and why are they used? That's a major question I get during training. And then just a very simple way of accessing the Rate Wizard and kind of navigating through that tool inside RoomKey itself. When it comes to rate management, number one thing that we're also looking at is how to create rates. So using that Rate Wizard tool, once you've become familiar with how to find it, how to navigate within that module itself, you'll be using that to create rates and manage those rates inside RoomKey. One big question that we do get is how to create a rate, of course, and there are quite a few steps depending on what the rate will be used for, how it will be distributed, but I've tried my best to kind of chunk it out into three main steps. So for example here, the first step is to create a rate plan. The second step is to set up a rate template and load rate prices. And then the third step is to attach a client type. Attaching a client type is what makes that rate plan bookable. So it is very important that you're following all three steps in order to make the rate available, manageable, and bookable inside RoomKey. Now, based off of these three main steps, we do also support different billing methods. So these steps are demonstrated using a daily rate, meaning that room and tax is billed to the guest on a daily basis each and every day throughout their stay. But RoomKey can be set up to bill on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis to accommodate long-term stay guests. So you can charge once per week or once per month. There are some drawbacks to that, or that does have an effect on how some of your reports will generate, particularly with regards to ADR. It does have an effect on the ADR calculation each and every day if you are accommodating any weekly or monthly billing guests in-house. A couple of other management features when you are managing rates using that Rate Wizard tool. We like to recommend creating tier-enabled rates. That makes it really easy to manage all of your rates from one master rate. If they are tier enabled off of a master rate, you can simply update the master rate and that will flow down, or those changes will flow down into any rates that are tier enabled or tiered off of that master rate. So that's a nice tip, especially if you've got quite a few rates that you're managing inside your property. And then another major question that we do get is how to change a rate price or how to change the price of one room type. We've got a couple of video clips that will help you out with those procedures as well. Now, in addition to managing rates in RoomKey, our rate management getting started guide will also highlight some features of how to manage rates on the eRes booking engine. So this may not be applicable to all properties. If you are using a third-party booking engine, maybe through SiteMinder or Synexus, these are not applicable to you. But if you are using RoomKey's proprietary software, our eRes booking engine, which is connected directly to your RoomKeyPMS database, we've got a couple of video clips here on how you can manage rates that are distributed off to the eRes booking engine that are displayed on your hotel website. So how to add rates to eRes, how to create online promotions and manage cutoff days, and also how to create a free night promo. These are clips from our eRes presentation webinar that was done a little bit earlier this year as well. So some of that information may already be fresh in your memory. Now, if your property is using a third-party website or distributing your rates on any third-party website like Expedia, Booking.com, um, the Nexus, SiteMinder, anything like that, we also have a couple of video clips here that will help you familiarize yourself with how rates can be distributed through that GDS distribution channel in the Rate Wizard. We have an overview of how GDS rates are connected to RoomKey and how you can manage that connection in a couple of different methods depending on the type of interface that you're using and the way that your rates are mapped or connected. We also highlight the difference between uploaded rates versus derived GDS rates. That can be a common question that we get, so I do like to kind of help provide a little more definition regarding some of those terms that are used with regards to GDS rates or third-party rates. And then I do have an overview of some of the revenue management interfaces that you might be using. If you're using Duetto or Ideas to manage your rates, you're actually managing the rates on that platform and then pushing those rate changes down into RoomKey. So I've got a little video clip there about how those are connected. But please note, we don't have any detailed information about training that separate software because it is managed and operated outside of RoomKey. So if you need to know more information about how to manage rates on Ideas or Duetto platforms, you will need to go to those support resources directly. We don't have any detailed information on our side, but we can give a description about how that information flows into RoomKey using that video clip there. Lastly, featured on our Rate Manager Getting Started guide, I have a whole list of rate reports. These are also a big question that we often get as part of training is where you can find rate reports based off of different values, based off of different parameters or objectives. So I've listed out some of the rate and revenue related reporting that is available in RoomKey. One thing that you will note is that we have separated statistic reports and forecasting reports. A good rule of thumb whenever you're looking at all of these big lists of reports in RoomKey is that statistic reports are available for reporting on past dates, dates that have already been settled or in the past. And forecast reports are allowing you to look into future dates or forecasting future revenue information. So we do have those separated based off of how you're looking at it, what type of date range or time frame you're looking at, whether it's the past or the future. Now let's take a look at some of the sales management getting started guides. We do have them separated. So first we are taking a look at the corporates and wholesalers sales manager roles. Corporate accounts inside RoomKey, I have a couple of videos here that give an overview of how corporate accounts are created and managed inside RoomKey because they are unique in the way that they can be managed and how they can be utilized for separate functions. So I have come across other property management software that will have some overlap in how they define corporate accounts versus wholesalers versus group accounts and city ledger or direct billing. So I do like to just kind of give an overview of how RoomKey uses that term, corporate accounts, what it means, and what those look like inside RoomKey. Now, as I mentioned, corporate accounts can be utilized for a couple of different functions. So I have outlined how you can create and manage corporate accounts initially, but I also like to highlight that you can use corporate accounts to manage your OTAs or online travel agents like Booking.com and Expedia. Because of a very unique feature in our corporate account setup is that you can actually create a separate account based off of a billing method. So what I mean there is exemplified here with Expedia. Those of you that are familiar with how Expedia sets up their billing or offers different billing options to guests, basically when you are a guest booking on Expedia.com, you can either book a reservation with your own credit card, or you can prepay with your credit card. Now, those are two different billing methods because in the prepaid method, you're going to pay for your stay upfront to Expedia. And when that reservation is then transferred into the hotel, instead of Expedia giving the guest credit card information, they're actually going to send a prepaid virtual credit card. So because the billing method is different with those prepaid versus hotel collect, or sometimes called guest pay own reservations, we do recommend that you create two separate accounts in order to manage those two separate billing methods. The benefit of this is that when the reservation comes into RoomKey from Expedia, is that it's automatically going to have some of that billing or charge routing set up for you. So the front desk agent doesn't need to manually move charges around. RoomKey already knows that room and tax charges are going to be prepaid on a separate folio using a virtual credit card in the event of a prepaid reservation versus having that hotel collect option there. So because RoomKey is really flexible with how we can manage those or how our corporate accounts can be managed, I do have an outline here of how you can use corporate account or accounts in the corporate module to manage your OTAs. Now, based off of those corporate accounts, we've got a couple more pieces of information about how you can manage those different types of corporate reservations. Now, some of this is overlap with the reservation agent getting started guide. So things like how to create a reservation or how to check out a reservation with billing to the city ledger, those are detailed in the reservation agent and front desk agent getting started guides. A couple more unique things that are optional but may be useful for your business include some of the sales manager commission tracking. So if you have a sales manager team and you want to track commission based off of the sales or business sales, corporate sales that they're bringing into the hotel, you can use a sales manager commission tracking tool or tag manager, sometimes utilized in that respect as well. And then lastly, we do have some corporate account reporting that is available directly in the corporates module. Jumping over to wholesalers. Wholesalers are not used as commonly as corporate accounts. They're not quite as flexible. But a defining feature of a wholesaler is that not only can you have unique billing, so things like city ledger or direct billing can be incorporated with the wholesaler account. But the main feature with a wholesaler is a block or allotment of rooms that are contracted to the wholesaler, usually to a tour or tour wholesaler. So I have a couple of video clips that help define what is a wholesaler and how you can manage things like a wholesaler account, how you can attach rates to the account, and how you can manage those blocks or allotments inside RoomKey. When it comes to wholesaler reservations, again, there are some overlap with some of this information with the reservation and front desk getting started guides, but I do like to highlight or at least pick out some of those features here when it comes to the sales manager if you're managing those wholesaler accounts. And then we do have an article that quickly summarizes any wholesaler related reporting. The last major topic that we have associated with sales management is managing groups and group blocks. So I have an overview of what are group blocks and how to access the group module. That is a unique tool that is used in RoomKey to create and manage groups directly inside our software. We can accommodate a variety of billing methods when it comes to groups. The most common one is individual billing, meaning that the guest who is checked into the room, they've booked their own reservation and they're going to be paying for room and tax using their own credit card. But as is often the case, you may accommodate different types of billing for different types of groups. So we can also create groups with billing to the city ledger, meaning that after the guests have checked out, the charges are transferred to the city ledger, and then you issue an invoice off to the organization or event company on behalf of those room charges, and then receive payment afterward. You may also utilize house account billing for certain types of groups. Instead of issuing invoices after the guest has stayed, you may want to create a house account to record any advanced deposits or deposit charges. You may also use that house account for any non-guest charges that might be associated with an event. The big one here that I always think of is a wedding event. So if you host weddings at your property and you want to be able to charge for things like catering, event setup, banquets, anything like that, you might want to utilize a house account and house account billing for those purposes. So we've got quite a bit of information available and little video clips that'll help you sort of suss out what type of billing or what type of group might be best suited for your group business at your property. When it comes to groups, we also have a lot of overlap with those group reservations. So again, some of these are also contained inside the reservations and front desk getting started guides. But I do like to highlight them here, as well as any of our reporting functionality that appears down at the bottom here. We have just listed all of our group reports in one simple article, so you don't need to click through a bunch of them. You can go to one article and see all the different types of reporting that is available in that groups module. Okay. So with the end of the sales management, that is actually the end of our topics for today. We've looked at the new Getting Started guides. We've seen an overview of some of the new changes and updates and those embedded video clips directly into the guides themselves. We took a deep dive into the different guides, each and every one, including reservations, front desk, the end of day reporting and night audit procedures, the rate management, and all those different types of sales management tasks. So I just want to open up the floor and see if there are any questions about these new Getting Started guides or any of the information we've reviewed so far. If you do have any questions, you can go ahead and click that Q&A button inside the webinar. If you're using an updated version of Zoom webinar, you might find that Q&A button is now hidden under the More section. I'll make sure to update my future webinar presentations just to accommodate some of that new changes that Zoom has incorporated into this new version. But feel free to ask any questions. We can certainly help out if you do have any outstanding questions about training new staff or maybe updating your existing knowledge using those Getting Started guides. Great. So we have a question asked into the Q&A section, just asking if you can get an SOP made up for new staff members. You can certainly use the guides to kind of start building your own SOPs. One of the challenges that I do find with creating SOPs is that, or standard operating procedures, is that they are very customizable to your hotel operations. So I do like to show how you can use these guides to kind of build your own. If you would like to use any of those bookmark techniques that I showed at the beginning, I'll just actually show that on screen again. Um, For example, if you wanted to create an online SOP, I've had a couple of properties that have started doing that. Let me just show my bookmarks here. You can create separate folders in your bookmark bar that make it really easy for staff members to access things like reservations or front desk. These are bookmark to the actual guide themselves. So here's the front desk agent. But if you wanted to bookmark maybe an entire section, or I can actually show you each one of these video links. If you hover next to the video link, you'll see a little link icon, and that will generate a link itself. So this link will bring you directly to that video clip. So if you'd like to start building an SOP out of bookmarks using those links, that can be very helpful for new staff members when they're first joining your property. That method also helps them weed out any procedures that are not applicable to your hotel. So for example, if I scroll down here, or actually let me use my reservations. If you don't use any of these advanced features, like if you're not setting up tasks or overriding rates, you can actually omit those. You don't need to use the link here. But if you do want to include something like adding a guest share, you've got that link directly to that video clip. So it makes it easy for you to start building some sort of SOP electronically using your bookmarks. I hope that helps give a couple of ideas here, utilizing the online functionality and accessibility of these support articles and support information, rather than relying on paper documentation or printed documents at the front desk. So I'll just leave it open for a little bit longer. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, as you close down the webinar or as you exit, please remember that there is a webinar survey. We do appreciate if you can provide a couple of pieces of information there. It takes just a couple of minutes to give some feedback, and it's greatly appreciated. We do take a look at any of those anonymous surveys there. Okay, so I see that people are starting to drop off. I'm going to go ahead and close down our presentation for today. Thank you to everyone who participated and joined in for our presentation. I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next one.